Most prepper food stockpiles will get someone killed, not because there isn't enough food, because there isn't enough of the right food. That freeze-dried bucket in your garage advertises 72 servings. Do the math on actual calories. It delivers maybe 1,200 a day. You, working through a real crisis, burn 3,000 minimum. Military ration doctrine solved this decades ago. The Operational Rations Program calculates 3,600 calories per warfighter per day. Veterans who deployed on that math know exactly what works. One item on this list costs under $4, requires zero cooking, and delivers 2,600 calories per container. It never appears on mainstream prepper lists. 9 specific foods, real costs, real calorie counts, real shelf lives. A complete stockpile framework built on what actually sustains human performance under sustained disruption. This is the list the prepper industry doesn't want competing with their $60 freeze-dried pouches. Number 1. Ghee. Most of you have never considered this. You see clarified butter and you think cooking luxury. Gourmet ingredient, something for a nice kitchen, not a survival shelf. That reaction is exactly why your stockpile has a fatal gap. Here's the problem almost nobody talks about. Fat is the most calorie-dense macronutrient you can store. 9 calories per gram. Protein gives you 4. Carbohydrates give you 4. Fat gives you 9. More than double. And most preppers have almost none of it on their shelves. You're stacking cans of vegetables, bags of beans, boxes of pasta, all carbohydrates, all 4 calories per gram. You're building a stockpile that looks full but runs on half the energy density it should. Ghee fixes that instantly. 1 tablespoon delivers roughly 120 calories. That's pure, shelf-stable energy you can add to anything. Stir it into rice. Melt it over grain. Cook with it directly. You get a massive caloric boost from a single spoonful. Now here's what separates ghee from regular butter. The clarification process removes all the milk solids. Those milk solids are what make butter perishable. They're what force you to refrigerate it. Remove them and you've got a fat that stores over a year at room temperature. No refrigeration, no freezer, no power grid required. Most civilians categorize all dairy as refrigerator dependent. That's wrong. Ghee sits on a shelf and waits. There's a third function most people miss entirely. In every documented siege economy, from Sarajevo to historical accounts going back centuries, concentrated fats became premium barter goods. When calories get scarce, fat is what people pay the most for. You're not just storing food, you're storing currency. 1 item, 3 functions: cooking fat, caloric booster, barter good. That's how military logistics thinks. 1 asset solving multiple problems. Your running cost so far is roughly $8 to $12 for a quality jar. That's the price of entry for the most calorie-dense, shelf-stable item on this entire list. I've put together a complete guide on building a deployment-grade food stockpile that goes deeper than anything I can cover here. You'll find it in the first line of the description. Number 2, white rice. This is your foundational caloric staple. 1,650 calories per dry pound. That's not a rough estimate. That's what you get when you measure it. Cost at a warehouse retailer in bulk is 60 to 80 cents per pound. You can build thousands of calories of reserve for the price of a fast food meal. But here's where most health-conscious preppers destroy their own stockpile. They buy brown rice. It sounds smarter, it sounds more nutritious, and it will go rancid on your shelf in 6 to 12 months. The bran layer on brown rice contains oils. Those oils oxidize. Your stockpile rots from the inside while you think you're prepared. White rice sealed properly with oxygen absorbers in Mylar bags stores for 30 years. 3 decades of stable calories sitting on your shelf for under $1 a pound. That's not marketing. That's documented food science. There's a reason white rice is the single most distributed crisis food in modern humanitarian operations. Every major relief agency on the planet defaults to it. Not quinoa, not brown rice, not specialty grains, white rice. Because it works, it stores, it feeds populations, you cook it with water, that's it. Your running total is now roughly $10 to $15. You've got your fat source and your carbohydrate foundation locked in. 2 items in, and you've already built more reliable caloric density than most $100 freeze-dried kits. Number 3. Peanut butter. This is the one I teased at the top. 2,600 calories per standard 16-ounce jar. Let that number sit for a second. One jar, under $4, 2,600 calories. You don't need water. You don't need heat. You don't need a stove, a pot, a utensil, or a single minute of cooking time. You open the jar. You eat. That's it. That's your meal, roughly 190 calories per ounce. In a caloric emergency, this is a complete no-cook survival food sitting on a grocery shelf for the price of a coffee. There's a reason peanut butter shows up persistently among special operations personnel as a personal ration supplement. It's not official doctrine, it's field-tested preference. Guys who've lived on operational rations for months at a time grab peanut butter because it fills the caloric gaps nothing else fills, and it requires absolutely zero logistics to consume. Now pay attention to this. There's a critical distinction most people miss. Commercially processed peanut butter with stabilizers on the label lasts 1 to 2 years on the shelf. It's designed for storage. Natural peanut butter, the kind with the oil floating on top, separates and degrades much faster. You want the processed version. This is not the time for clean label ideology. You want the jar that sits and waits. Your running total is roughly $14 to $20, 3 items. You've got fat, carbohydrates, and a zero prep caloric powerhouse. Number 4, instant coffee. This isn't about nutrition, not even close. This is an operational performance item. Caffeine is a documented cognitive enhancer. The military includes it in combat rations for exactly one reason. It keeps you alert when fatigue is trying to shut your brain down. Decision-making under sleep deprivation degrades fast. Reaction time slow. Judgment collapses. Caffeine counters that. It's cheap insurance for your ability to think clearly when thinking clearly is the only thing keeping you alive. But here's the part. Most people never consider. Roughly 80% of regular caffeine consumers experience withdrawal within 12 to 24 hours of cessation. The symptoms hit fast: headaches, cognitive fog, irritability, reduced focus. In your normal life, that's an inconvenience. In a crisis, those are performance killers. You're trying to make critical decisions about security, water, movement, and your brain is screaming for a chemical it's not getting. Sealed instant coffee stores for years. It costs a few dollars for a jar that lasts weeks. And in every documented disaster scenario, coffee becomes one of the highest value barter commodities on the market. People will trade significant resources for it. That's not speculation. That's a pattern repeated in every extended disruption from Hurricane Katrina to the Bosnian conflict. You're spending $3 to $5. Your running total is roughly $17 to $25. You've added a cognitive performance tool and a premium barter item for less than the price of a single coffee shop drink. Number 5, canned full-fat coconut milk. Here's what most preppers get completely wrong about their canned goods. They stock vegetables, they stock meats, they stock beans and soups. Every single one of those is primarily protein or carbohydrate. Almost nobody stocks canned fat. And fat is the macronutrient that's hardest to forage, hardest to improvise, and most absent from shelf-stable options. Canned full-fat coconut milk solves that. 500 to 600 calories per can, $1 to $2, 2 to 5 year shelf life. 50 to 60% of those calories come from fat. This is one of the only shelf-stable, affordable, ready-to-consume fat sources sitting on a normal grocery shelf right now. You don't need a specialty store. You don't need a prepper website. You walk into any grocery store and it's on the shelf. Veterans from Pacific deployments recognize coconut products as a caloric workhorse. There's a reason populations in tropical regions have sustained themselves on coconut fat for thousands of years. It's dense. It's stable. It works. You can drink it straight. You can add it to rice for a massive caloric upgrade. You can use it in any grain-based meal to double the energy density. Your running total is roughly $20 to $30 for several cans. 5 items in. You've built a stockpile foundation that covers carbohydrates, fats, protein, zero-cook options, cognitive performance, and barter leverage, all for less than the cost of one freeze-dried emergency bucket. Number 6. Honey. This is the item with the most ridiculous shelf life on the list, functionally indefinite. Archaeologists have recovered edible honey from Egyptian tombs over 3,000 years old. Not degraded honey, not residue, edible honey. The moisture content and acidity create an environment where bacteria simply cannot survive. That's not folklore, that's food science. 60 calories per tablespoon. Not the densest item here, but density isn't the point. Honey is a force multiplier. Military logistics prizes items that solve multiple problems with a single line on the supply manifest. Honey solves for: first, it's a caloric source. Direct energy you can consume with zero preparation. Second, it's a flavor enhancer. And before you dismiss that as a luxury, understand this. Caloric intake collapses when food tastes terrible. You will eat less. You will skip meals. Your performance degrades, and you won't even notice because it happens gradually. Honey makes bland survival food edible. That's not comfort. That's caloric compliance. Third, honey is a documented topical wound treatment. It has antimicrobial properties validated by modern military medical research. You can apply it directly to minor wounds, burns, and abrasions. In a grid-down scenario where your medical supplies are limited, that's a real capability. Fourth, premium barter good. Honey has been traded as a high-value commodity for millennia. That pattern doesn't change in a crisis. It intensifies. $8 to $12 per 3-pound container at major retailers. Your running total is roughly $28 to $42. One item, 4 functions: caloric source, flavor compliance tool, medical application, barter currency. That's specification-grade thinking. Now stop. Before you hear item 7, you need to understand what you've actually been building, because the pattern isn't random. Look at this list: ghee, peanut butter, coconut milk. More than half the items so far are fat sources. Here's why. A typical prepper stockpile of canned goods and freeze-dried meals delivers roughly 15 to 20% of calories from fat. Military rations target 40 to 50%. That's not a small gap. That's a catastrophic one. Do the math with me. If you're consuming 3,000 calories a day and your stockpile only delivers 15% from fat, you're getting 450 fat calories. You need 1,200 to 1,500. That's a deficit of 750 to over 1,000 fat calories every single day. Over 30 days, that's a shortfall of 22,000 to 30,000 calories. That deficit alone degrades your physical capacity. It degrades your cognitive function. It suppresses your immune system. You're eating food but starving nutritionally. This is what kills people in extended disruptions. Not empty shelves full of the wrong ratio. Everything on this list is designed to close that gap. Now you understand why. Number 7, Bouillon cubes. This is the highest impact per dollar item on the entire list. $2 to $4 for 25 or more cubes. They weigh almost nothing. They store for years, and they solve a problem most preppers have never even identified. Caloric intake collapses when food is monotonous. This is documented in every extended field operation. Personnel skip meals. They eat half portions. They start degrading physically, not because food is unavailable, but because their brain rejects eating the same bland thing day after day. Bouillon in hot water provides warmth. It encourages hydration because people drink more when it tastes like something. It replaces sodium and electrolytes you're losing through exertion and stress. You dissolve 1 cube in a cup of hot water, and you've addressed morale, hydration, and electrolyte replacement simultaneously. Add it to rice, and you transform a bland survival staple into something you actually want to eat. That's not a luxury. That's the difference between eating your full caloric requirement and unconsciously cutting it by 30% because your body doesn't want another flavorless meal. Almost no mainstream prepper list includes Bouillon. That tells you everything about the gap between marketing-driven preparation and field-tested knowledge. Your running total is roughly $30 to $46. 7 items. You're still under $50, and you've built more operational capability than kits costing 10 times as much. Number 8, hard red wheat berries, not flour, wheat berries. That distinction matters, and it's where most people get this wrong. If you store flour, you've got 1 to 2 years before it degrades. The milling process exposes surface area to oxidation. It starts going stale the moment it's packaged. Whole wheat berries sealed with oxygen absorbers store for 30+ years. Same timeline as white rice. You've got a grain that outlasts most of the structure you store it in. You can grind wheat berries into flour when you need it. A hand grain mill costs $20 to $40 and lasts indefinitely. You produce fresh flour on demand. That means fresh bread, fresh tortillas, fresh flatbread, every carbohydrate option that flour enables, available to you decades from now. But here's the function that puts this above simple flour storage. Wheat berries sprout. In 2 to 3 days, using nothing but water and a jar, you can produce fresh sprouts with meaningful vitamin C content. That's a survival course technique for countering nutritional deficiency without soil, sunlight, or a garden. In an extended disruption lasting weeks or months, vitamin C depletion becomes a real threat. Scurvy isn't a historical curiosity. It's a physiological reality that starts manifesting within 4 to 6 weeks without adequate intake. Sprouted wheat berries give you a renewable, indoor-grown source of fresh nutrition from a grain that stores for 3 decades. 30 to 40 cents per pound from Restaurant Supply or LDS canneries. Your running total is roughly $35 to $55 depending on quantity. You've now got a 30-year shelf-stable grain that doubles as a renewable source of fresh vitamins. Number 9. Lard. You started this list with ghee. You're ending it with its bookend. Another shelf-stable fat that most modern preppers reject on cultural bias alone. Sometime around the mid-20th century, marketing campaigns shifted public perception toward vegetable oils and away from animal fats. That marketing has nothing to do with survival. Before that shift, lard was the standard cooking fat in military mess operations through both world wars. It was issued, stored, and consumed at scale because it worked. 115 calories per tablespoon. That's nearly identical to ghee, 1 to several years of shelf life at room temperature. $3 to $5 per pound. You can cook with it. You can add it to any grain or starch for a massive caloric boost. You can use it for waterproofing, for lamp fuel, for skin protection in extreme cold. Another multi-function item that solves problems across categories. Here's the historical anchor that drives this home. During the siege of Leningrad, animal fats were among the most desperately scarce foods. Carbohydrates were available in limited form, but fat, the macronutrient that delivers 9 calories per gram, was nearly impossible to find. Survival often hinged on fat access when carbohydrates ran out. People didn't starve because there was no food. They starved because there was no fat. That's the pattern you see repeated across every prolonged siege and supply disruption in modern history. The people who survive aren't the ones with the most food. They're the ones with the most calorically dense food, and density means fat. Your final running total is roughly $38 to $60. 9 items, all available at normal grocery stores and warehouse retailers. No specialty prepper suppliers, no overpriced emergency kits, no subscription services. 9 items. Total cost is a fraction of one commercial freeze-dried kit, and every calorie you've stored actually matches what your body needs under sustained load. Veterans don't store food categories, they store calories. And now you know the ratio most stockpiles get catastrophically wrong. I've written up a full breakdown on emergency food planning that covers everything you won't find in a single video, and it's linked in the first line of the description for when you need it offline. Drop a comment and tell me the one item on this list you're adding to your next grocery run.